Hello and welcome our blog viewers to RTD's News English Edition. Tonight, as usual, we begin our news with the top major highlights. First edition of the D Startup 2021 competition. And on the international scene, African cinema, Golden Stallion of Firpako to the Gravedigger's Wife by Somali Ahmed Al Khadar. Those were the major top highlights. Welcome back to our newsroom, our beloved viewers. Prime Minister Mr. Abdul Ghadir Kamil Mohammed chaired this morning at the Kempeski, the first edition of the startup competition organized by the Surveyor Fund of Djibouti. On his arrival, the Prime Minister and acting head of government was welcomed by the Minister of Economy and Finance, Mr. Ilyas Moussa, the Minister of Budget, Mr. Abdul Karim Adensher, and the Director General of the SDF, Nim'a Umar Hassan. Immediately arrived, the Prime Minister visited the stands erected for the occasion, stands of 8 finalists set up by the digital communication body. The first edition of the startup aims to provide a strong response in terms of project funding by a significant contribution from FSD and its partners. A total of 8 finalists were selected, namely Zeta Corp, Code Camp, Ecofarm, Al Nouri Jib Energy Service. 3 prizes were won for this edition of the competition. The first prize of 10 million with support for the project for 6 months. The second prize of 7 million with support for the project for 6 months. And finally, the third prize, the prize of hope for 5 million with support for the project also for 6 months. Were present the members of the government, the president of the Administrative Council of the SDF, the interim Director General, Mrs. Nim'a Umar, diplomats associated to Djibouti. This start aims to invest in innovative and structuring projects that bring real added value to the country and promote sustainable and sustained economic growth, particularly to job creation, improving the quality of life, and increasing socio-economic performance. The chairman of the board of directors of the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Djibouti, Mr. Siki Kayad, and the acting director general, Mrs. Nim'a Umar Hassan, emphasized the importance of holding such an event by the SDF. For his part, the Minister of Budget, Mr. Abdul Karim Adensher, was pleased with this idea of startup competition, or 8 young Djiboutians compete. He said that created a wealth and created business. The Minister of Economy and Finance, in love with the private sector, is optimistic about the idea of creating one's own business and is confident that our youth can take charge and create wealth. Prime Minister Mr. Abdul Ghadir Kamil Mohammed was pleased to have sponsored the first edition of this startup that brings real added value to the country and promotes sustainable economic growth. A climax for the first edition of the Summer Competition 2021 under the aegis of the Ministry of Youth and Culture, Her Excellency Dr. Hibu Mumin Asowe, the People's Palace hosted this morning the award ceremony for the lucky winners of the Inter-CDC Summer Competition, which started last July. The ceremony took place in the presence of the Mayor of the City of Djibouti, Mrs. Fatouma Awali Usman, the President and Vice President of the Municipality of Balbala, the President of the Regional Council of Obokh, and several other official figures. The ceremony, punctuated by folk dances, modern dances, sketches, and humor performed by the winners of the competition, ended with the award of trophies and certificates to the lucky young winners. In their respective words, the President of the Regional Council of Obokh and the President of the Municipality of Balbala, who were present to encourage the troops of their CDCs, welcomed their first edition and expressed their wishes for a second edition in 2022. Fatouma Awali Usman congratulated the minister for this initiative and applauded the beautiful performance of the folk troops by inviting them to represent our heritage during cultural exchange with partner cities of Djibouti. Also in her speech, the Minister of Youth and Culture insisted at length on the preservation of culture as well as the intercontinuity between youth, culture, and the CDC, which form strong links of the same chain that aims to promote the Djiboutian youth. Moving on, as part of the Day of the United Nations celebrated today, its 76th anniversary, the representative of the United Nations system in Djibouti, Mr. Eric Overvest, in a speech stating that the United Nations amplifies the common programs and reaffirm the goals and principles of the charter of the organization. Let's listen.
Today is the UN Day. It's the day where we reaffirm our commitment to the UN Charter and to the values of the UN, why the UN was created, for its values of tolerance and respect and solidarity in the world, in order to attain and to preserve peace, international security. With all the challenges that we have in the world, such as climate change, cyber criminality, inequalities, we really require a multilateral approach in order to solve these problems. It cannot be one particular country to solve these huge problems we have in the world. And that's why United Nations was created. And that's why our mandate is more than ever pertinent and important. And that's why today we reaffirm our commitment to this mandate and to this charter of the UN. The UN in Djibouti is well represented along around 10 agencies present here, and we work together with the government and our different counterparts in civil society to improve the living conditions of the Djiboutians, particularly those that are in situations of vulnerability, but also we are there to preserve the biodiversity and to better respond to the challenge of climate change in this country. And thirdly, to strengthen capacities, to better plan and to better implement policies and strategies of social economic development which are really durable. And of course, in line with international standards, international norms.
The Intergovernmental Authority on Development will start its validation process of the National Baseline Report on the Blue Economy for IGAD member states. Under the supervision and guidance of the Directorate of Agriculture and Environment, the city of Arta in the Republic of Djibouti had the honor to serve as the starting point for the launch of this work that will be carried out in several cities in the IGAD region. Present at this workshop were representatives of various ministries of the Republic of Djibouti, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development, the Ministry of Agriculture, Water, Fisheries, Livestock and Fisheries Resources, ONIAD, the Ministry of Trade and Tourism, the Ministry of Infrastructure and Equipment, the Ports and Free Zones Authority, the Djiboutian Coast Guard, the Ministry of Energy in charge of natural resources, the Ministry of Higher Education and Research, and the Regional Maritime Training Center of Djibouti. During this workshop, the challenges and means that will be put in place to comply with the provisions of the IGAD policy and protocol on biodiversity that provide some legal frameworks for the safeguarding, conservation, and restoration of terrestrial and maritime biodiversity resources will be addressed. The objective of these workshops are to review the draft baseline report and update the gaps, validation of the baseline reports, creation of a national BE platform. The expected outcomes of the workshop are missing data information filled in, national report validated and approved by all sector organizations, import to regional report, background document for validation of the regional BE strategy. A similar workshop should be held in other IGAD member states, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, and Uganda. The BE coordinator and the regional fisheries expert will lead the process. A national facilitator will be engaged to assist in the facilitation during the meeting and in the submission of the final report. In the framework of the celebration of the World Food Day on October 2021, the Regional Subdirectorate has launched a program of external deforming to fight against ectoparasites that cause a lot of damage to animals. Parasites slow down the growth of young animals, decrease milk production, and also degrade the quality of hides. This activity will be carried out through the region of Tajora. This operation is very beneficial for the breeders of the region. I take this opportunity to thank the Director of Livestock and Veterinary Service, the Prefect of the region of Tajora, and the President of the Council for their inevitable support. We have just learned with great sadness the death of Mrs. Saida Ilmi on Thursday, October 2021 during the Fajr prayer. Born in 1935, the deceased, loved by all, leaves behind 7 children, 23 grandchildren, and 8 great-grandchildren. We present our sincerest condolence to the family of the deceased. May Allah welcome her in His eternal paradise. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Shifting our focus now to the international scene, Somali director Ahmed Khadar won the Golden Ethlon of Yenga at the 27th Pan-African Film and Television Festival on Saturday for his film The Gravedigger's Wife. Shot in 2021, The Gravedigger's Wife tells the story of a loving couple who live and their son Mahad in the neighborhoods of Djibouti. But the balance of this family is threatened because the mother is ill and her husband, a gravedigger, cannot earn enough money to cover the health costs. This film tells the story of one man's struggle to save his companion, to keep his family together. But as our beloved viewers, we conclude tonight's news edition. Thank you for being with us and make sure to tune in later for more. Have a wonderful evening and thank you.
Le ministère de la Santé, en collaboration avec le Centre Roi Salman du Royaume d'Arabie Saoudite, organise une caravane médico-chirurgicale pour les enfants âgés de 0 à 15 ans présentant des pathologies cardiaques. Cette caravane va se dérouler du 28 octobre au 5 novembre 2021 dans l'enceinte de l'hôpital Chero de Balbala. Le ministère de la Santé exhorte la population à venir massivement bénéficier de cette caravane. La santé est l'affaire de tous.
Vous êtes porteur d'un projet ou d'une idée de création. Vous souhaitez vous lancer à votre compte et être votre propre patron. Clé a le plaisir de vous annoncer le lancement d'un appel à candidature pour accéder à sa 3e édition du programme d'incubation. Candidatez maintenant avant la date limite à travers la page Facebook du programme d'incubation Clé.
Douda réinvente son lait UHT. Son nouvel emballage avec bouchon pour le 500 ml, vous n'avez plus besoin d'ouvrir avec des ciseaux.